Imagine standing at the edge of everything you were meant to become. But first, you have to lose it all. A young man, raised in palaces, surrounded by power and privilege, sees injustice one day and makes a choice that will cost him everything. In one moment, his entire world collapses. He becomes a fugitive. Alone, broken, wandering a wilderness that will become his teacher. What if I told you that the worst season of your life isn't your punishment? It's your preparation. What if the wilderness you're in right now is actually sculpting you into who you're destined to be? This is the story of Moses, and it's a story that speaks directly to anyone who feels lost in the desert of their own life. You know that feeling? When everything you built crumbles, when the dream you held dies in your hands, when you're wondering if God has forgotten you entirely. Moses knew it, and for 40 years, he lived it. We live in a culture obsessed with instant elevation. We see success as a straight line upward, a story where you go from nothing to everything in the span of a motivational podcast. But the Bible tells a different story. It tells us that the greatest leaders, the most powerful voices, the most transformative lives, they all went through something first. They all had a wilderness. And Moses? His wilderness wasn't punishment for his mistakes. It was the chrysalis where a nervous man would be transformed into the liberator of millions. This message is for you if you're in a season where nothing makes sense. If you've made mistakes that cost you everything. If you're asking yourself whether you'll ever be more than your failure, more than your current circumstances. Moses' story is your invitation to understand that where you are right now, however dark, however painful, is not where your story ends. It's where your story transforms. Picture Egypt around 1300 BC. A Hebrew boy is born into slavery, but fate intervenes. He's rescued, adopted into Pharaoh's royal family, and grows up surrounded by gold, education, and power. He has everything the world says should make him feel complete. Everything except purpose. Everything except peace. One day, Moses walks past slaves being beaten in the hot sun. His people. His family. And something inside him breaks open. He sees injustice and he can't look away. So he kills an Egyptian and hides the body in the sand, thinking no one will know. But someone saw. Word spreads. And suddenly the comfortable life Moses built, the identity he inherited, all of it becomes a prison of its own kind. He has to run. He flees Egypt and ends up in Midian, a wilderness. No throne, no titles, no recognition. Just a man tending sheep for his father-in-law, day after day, in the silence of the desert. And here's what's crucial. During those 40 years in that wilderness, Moses experienced something that no palace could ever teach him. He learned to listen. He learned humility. He learned what it meant to be completely dependent on something greater than himself. Every moment herding sheep under the burning sun was a moment God was rewiring him, breaking down his pride, teaching him the shape of faith. The wilderness stripped him of everything he thought made him powerful, his status, his wealth, his security, so that God could show him what real strength was. It's counterintuitive. It hurts. But it's the only way a man raised in palaces could ever understand the pain of those in dungeons. It's the only way someone who had everything could ever appreciate what God was about to give to those who had nothing. There's something profound happening in the silence of those wilderness years that we often miss. We see the 40 years as lost time, as punishment for Moses' impulsive act of killing the Egyptian. But Scripture reveals something different. Those years weren't erasing his preparation, they were completing it. In Egypt, Moses was trained in the wisdom of the world. He knew strategy, administration, how to navigate complex systems of power. Those skills would matter. But wisdom alone isn't enough to lead God's people to freedom. You need something deeper. You need your soul transformed. You need to understand your own weakness so deeply that you stop relying on your own strength and start relying on God's. The wilderness does that. It breaks you in places you didn't even know were broken. It teaches you that your credentials don't save you. Your intelligence doesn't save you. Your good intentions don't save you. Only God does. And here's where it gets personal for you. Whatever wilderness you're in right now, whatever season has stripped you bare and left you wondering if you'll ever recover, it's doing the same work. I know it doesn't feel like it. It feels like punishment. It feels like abandonment. It feels like you're being erased. But if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to learn, the wilderness is teaching you something that comfort never could. It's teaching you that your worth isn't in your performance. Your value isn't in your status or your success. Your identity isn't in what you've achieved. You are beloved in the wilderness just as much as you would be on the throne. And that realization, that bone-deep understanding, is what makes you dangerous to the systems of this world that depend on your insecurity. That's what makes you free. Moses is 80 years old. He's lived most of his life. He's tending sheep in the wilderness, probably thinking his story is over, that his potential was wasted in that moment of rage in Egypt. And then he sees a bush burning. In that moment, God shows up. And God says, "I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cry. I know their pain. And I'm sending you to set them free." And Moses says, "Who am I?" He doesn't say, "Yes, finally my moment has come." He says, "Who am I?" Because 80 years in the wilderness will humble you. 80 years of being nobody will teach you that you're not the hero of this story. God is. And that's the realization that changes everything. It's not about your abilities. It's not about your strength. It's about surrendering to something bigger than yourself. It's about understanding that every moment in the wilderness, every moment you felt forgotten, every moment you questioned God, all of it was preparation for the moment when you would finally be ready to say yes to your destiny. The turning point isn't when you get back what you lost. It's when you stop needing it back. It's when you can stand in a wilderness and say, "I'm broken, I'm small, I'm nothing, but God is everything." And mean it with your whole heart. You're in the wilderness. Maybe you've been there for years. Maybe you woke up one day and realized everything you built has crumbled. Maybe you made a choice that cost you more than you could have imagined. And you're wondering if there's any redemption left for you, if there's any story left to tell. But Moses is here to tell you, yes, 1,000 times yes. The wilderness isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your real one. It's where you stop pretending to be strong and actually become strong. Not through your own power, but through surrendering to something infinitely greater. Your lowest moment is the exact moment God is preparing you for your highest calling. The pain you're experiencing right now is shaping you into someone who can change the world. Hold on. Stay present. Listen for the voice that calls to you in the desert. Because one day, maybe when you least expect it, you'll step out of that wilderness transformed, and millions of lives will be changed because you were willing to break there first. This isn't punishment. This is preparation. And your destiny is waiting on the other side.